They've been counting down for 45 years. Last night, I heard them reach 1. On a rainy Tuesday morning in March, the cassette tape appeared on my doorstep. There was no envelope, no note, just a weathered black cassette with a handwritten label that read, Bin Ma Twins, 1978. I might have dismissed it as a student prank and thrown it away, had it not been for the name Bin Ma. For years, that small Welsh mining town had haunted the periphery of my academic research. I am Dr. Eleanor Winters, a professor of linguistics at Cardiff University, and I specialize in rare language patterns and extinct Celtic dialects. But in academic circles, I am perhaps better known for my controversial papers on xenoglossy, the alleged phenomenon of speaking languages one has never learned. Most of my colleagues consider it pseudoscience. I consider it an unexplained frontier. For 3 days, the tape sat on my desk before curiosity got the better of me. When I finally played it, the recording began with static, followed by a man's voice, trembling slightly. This is Dr. Alan Morris, child psychologist, Bryn Mawr Regional Hospital. Subject interview, June 12, 1978. Present are myself and the Morgan twins, Ellie and Evan, age 8. A pause, then, children, can you tell me your names? What followed was a sound that made the hair on my arms stand on end. 2 children's voices, perfectly synchronized, speaking what I could only describe as something other than language as we understand it. Guttural clicks were interspersed with melodic tones that rose and fell like ocean waves, consonants seemed to fold in on themselves, vowels lingered too long to be natural. They didn't speak a language, they performed a ritual. And I was the final piece. That night, I replayed the tape 7 times. By morning, I had booked a train to Bin Mawr. The Wales I travelled through was a patchwork of green valleys and abandoned mining towns, places where industry had come and gone, leaving behind shells of communities. Bin Mawr was no exception, a town clinging to the hillside, its terrace houses standing in neat rows like gravestones. The rain was relentless, as if the sky itself was weeping for something lost. Housed in what had once been the town hall, the local library was a Victorian building with high ceilings and the musty smell of forgotten knowledge. When I inquired about the Morgan twins, the librarian, Mrs. Powell, a woman in her 70s with silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, regarded me with suspicion. Why would you be asking about them, then? Her Welsh accent thickened with her apparent discomfort. I explained my research, my position at the university, careful to frame my inquiry as academic interest in unusual linguistic patterns. I'm studying cases of children who developed unique communication systems, I said, deliberately vague. Mrs. Powell's face remained impassive, but her hands trembled slightly as she sorted through index cards. We don't have much on that. Best you speak with Dr. Harris at the community center. He's been here since before the incident. The word incident hung in the air between us. What incident would that be? I asked. Mrs. Powell's eyes darted to the window where rain streaked down the glass like tears. The disappearance, of course. Terrible business. The whole town felt it. Still does. Dr. William Harris, a retired general practitioner, now spent his days organizing community health initiatives in a converted chapel that served as Bin Mawr's community center. He was tall and gaunt, with deeply lined features that spoke of decades witnessing human suffering. The Morgan twins, he said after I'd introduced myself and my research. Now there's a name I haven't heard spoken aloud in quite some time. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Sit down, Dr. Winters. This may take a while. According to Dr. Harris, Ellie and Evan Morgan appeared in Binmar in January 1978. They were brought by social services after being found wandering along the A465 highway during a snowstorm. A lorry driver who nearly hit them discovered them as they stood hand in hand in the middle of the road, wearing nothing but thin night clothes, seemingly impervious to the freezing conditions. I was hired to study their impossible language. I soon realized I was helping it escape. The strange thing, Dr. Harris said, lowering his voice though we were alone, was that they showed no signs of hypothermia, not even shivering. The driver said their skin was warm to the touch, as if they had just stepped out of a hot bath. The twins had no identification, no belongings, and most peculiarly, no apparent way to communicate in any recognized language. Initial assessment suggested they were approximately 8 years old, physically healthy with no signs of abuse or neglect. They were placed temporarily in Binmar Children's Home while authorities attempted to locate their family. I examined them the day after they were found, Dr. Harris continued. Physically, they were unremarkable. Perhaps a bit small for their age, with that distinctive pale blonde hair that almost looked white under certain lights. But their eyes? He paused, his gaze drifting to the window. Their eyes were what everyone remembered. So dark they appeared black, with an intensity that was unsettling in children so young. The twins' most notable feature, however, was their language, or rather, what people initially assumed to be a twin language, a private communication system sometimes developed by twins in early childhood. But as linguists and child psychologists evaluated them, it became clear that whatever they were speaking was far more complex than typical cryptophasia. It had structure, grammar, consistent phonological patterns, Dr. Harris explained. Dr. Morris from the regional hospital became quite obsessed with documenting it. He made recordings, transcriptions, spent hours with them every day. Dr. Alan Morris? I asked, remembering the voice on my mysterious cassette. Dr. Harris's expression darkened. Yes, poor man. He was never the same after. After what? After they disappeared. None of us were. He sighed heavily. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For 6 months, the Morgan twins lived at Binmar Children's Home, a Victorian building that had once been a workhouse, perched on the hill overlooking the town. They attended the local primary school but remained isolated from other children, partly due to their inability to communicate, partly due to the other children's fear of them. Children can be cruel, but there was something more than typical bullying at play, Dr. Harris explained. The other children seemed genuinely afraid. They claimed the twins could make things happen. Strange things. What kind of things? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral, academic. Dr. Harris hesitated. I'm a man of science, Dr. Winters. I don't put stock in superstition. But there were incidents. A boy who teased them developed an inexplicable rash that spread across his body within hours. A girl who excluded them from a game fell down the stairs the next day, breaking both arms. The school's pet rabbit was found dead after the teacher separated the twins for misbehavior. He shook his head. Coincidences, of course, but in a small town like this, coincidences begin to feel like patterns. As winter gave way to spring, the town's unease grew. The twins remained unclaimed, their origins a mystery. No missing persons reports matched their description. No one came forward with information. It was as if they had appeared from nowhere, or as some locals began to whisper, from somewhere else entirely. Superstitious nonsense, Dr. Harris said firmly. But in a former mining community, old beliefs die hard. There were rumors of changelings, of fairy children. Ridiculous, of course. Yet, even as he dismissed the folklore, his eyes betrayed his discomfort. I wondered what he wasn't telling me. What happened to Dr. Morris's research? I asked, changing tack. His recordings, his notes. Most of it was lost in the fire, Dr. Harris replied. Fire? At the hospital. A week after the twins disappeared, the psychiatric wing where Dr. Morris kept his office burned to the ground. Official report cited faulty wiring, but he trailed off. But you're not convinced. Dr. Harris met my gaze directly. Dr. Morris had become obsessive about the twins. He claimed to be making breakthroughs in understanding their language. Said it had patterns that connected to ancient Welsh, but also to something older. He was speaking with a professor from Aberystwyth, a specialist in pre-Celtic linguistics. He paused. The night before the fire, he called me, sounding panicked. Said he'd found something in the twins' speech patterns that changed everything. He wanted to meet to show me his findings. And did you? We arranged to meet the next morning. He never showed. When I went to the hospital to find him, the East Wing was already engulfed in flames. Dr. Harris's voice had dropped to barely above a whisper. They found his body in his office. The official report said he was overcome by smoke inhalation while trying to save his research. The air in the room felt suddenly heavy, charged with the weight of buried secrets. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming against the windows like impatient fingers. And the twins? I asked quietly. When exactly did they disappear? The same night as the fire. The night watchman at the children's home checked on them at midnight. They were asleep in their beds. By morning, they were gone. No signs of forced entry, no indications they'd packed or prepared to leave. Their beds were made, night clothes folded neatly on their pillows. Was there a search? The most extensive in the town's history. Police, volunteers, dogs. They searched the mountains, the old mine shafts, the reservoirs. Nothing. It was as if they'd vanished into thin air. He leaned forward. There was one thing, though. Something the official reports don't mention. I waited, hardly breathing. The night they disappeared, every dog in Binmar howled from sunset to sunrise. And at the children's home, they found markings. He took a slow breath. Markings on the wall above their beds. Symbols etched into the plaster, not carved or painted. It was as if they'd been burned into the wall. Symbols no one recognized, except. He hesitated, except Dr. Morris had drawn similar symbols in his notes. Said they represented phonemes in the twins' language. The revelation sent a chill through me. Do you have photographs of these markings? Dr. Harris shook his head. The children's home was demolished in the early 80s. Asbestos concerns, officially. Though some say the real reason was that strange things kept happening in the twins' former room. Children would sleepwalk there, report hearing voices. One girl claimed the twins spoke to her through the wall, told her they were waiting in the in-between. As our conversation concluded, Dr. Harris seemed relieved to have shared his knowledge, as if unburdening himself of a weight carried for decades. Before I left, he wrote down the name and address of Margaret Jones, the matron who had overseen the children's home in 1978. "If anyone knows more about the twins, it's Maggie," he said. "But I should warn you, she doesn't speak of them willingly, says it brings bad dreams."